Good morning. Well, welcome. You're going to get an official announcement in Zoom that this meeting is being recorded, so you can stay on the call. And yes, good morning, and would be lovely to hear some refreshment on yesterday. What was discussed? What do you remember? What was important for you? If you want to share, you can type. If you're on YouTube, you can type in the comments. If you're on Zoom, you can type in the chat. What was the take-home point? Also, what was the homework? And we can refresh ourselves. What was the theme? So we're getting into the mindset of remembering, recalling. Anyone would like to share? Any impressions from yesterday? What was the topic? Yeah. Yes, and the homework was the 4 steps of meditation. And how was your homework? How did you find it? It's one comment, very helpful. It's very strategic. Helpful to come back to true identity. Yes. So it is exploration yesterday to consolidate from a rational approach this meditation philosophy idea. And what did you find helpful? What was important? It would be good to share and hear from you. I wanted to share with you a quote by Einstein, and he said that not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. I don't know how that works with translation, but not everything that counts means something can actually be quantified and seen. And so yesterday we saw this idea and understanding of what is physical, what we can see, but then what is non-physical, and how this true I is journeying through. But from a physical level, every atom has been replaced. But what is really helpful to know is this spiritual perspective of the true I, and that is really what counts. That is really what is profound. And another quote also by Einstein, he said, everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And for me, it felt like this: if the soul, who is genius in that it's absolutely full of wisdom and very clear about his world and life when conscious, if he comes into this world and over time forgets and gets caught and identifies with the physical, with the costume, with the part, he's trying to find belonging, security, predictability, comfort in this ever-changing world, then it is very much you are kind of at loggerheads with reality. So any thoughts, ideas, feel free to share. One comment: the realization there may be things beyond what we can perceive is important. And an interesting idea that science can't answer all our problems. It is very good with what we can see physically, but there is another department, what is invisible. So thank you for that helpful refreshment, and I'm going to encourage any further questions, thoughts, and hand over now to Prashant. Good morning.
Hello, and very welcome again. Very nice to quickly revise some of our reflections and discussions yesterday. Let us create another couple of minutes. Just a simple reminder. What we are seeing, that our starting position at the present time, starting position of the world, is one of confusion. So that is good to know. One is there is a confusion and you don't even know there is a problem. So here we know the exact problem and there is answer. And the answer is use the best intellect. 1 second, the game changes. Because with this best intellect, we can see the things right way up. We said in the beginning, if there is a chair, to see it as a chair, that makes sense. And if it's a table, you see it as a table. You see chair as a table, then it is confusion. So in this full light, full clarity, we see the entire physical world as a theater. It is not just nice knowledge that we have understood. We, at this time, seeing it as a theater. Then it becomes yoga. Otherwise, it is knowledge. I can tell others, this is drama, this is a story, I can tell it. But if I'm seeing it as a drama, this moment, this is all we can do. Even though it is so simple, you will find, in a minute's time, you might not be seeing it as a drama. So this minute we are seeing, this is a theater, and what happened in the morning, it is a theater. What happened all this time in the past is a story and a theater. We see how extraordinary it is. There are so many kinds of characters and such a setup for this little drama. And it is such a big drama. God, what a wonder. This theater itself is great. But it is a theater, which means I can't get into a bondage with it. I can't get trapped. Theater has its own rules. It can suddenly finish. Each episode has an end. Dragons come in a theater. It changes. We are out of confusion. In confusion, we were living in that theater. Now we are seeing, okay, this is the theater. And with this intellect, we can see the world beyond the theater. That includes the true self. We call him the invisible traveler. He is the invisible actor. And he is also the invisible observer of this theater. The invisible soul plays these different parts. Everything is in place. Just we use the right intellect now. There is happiness. Everything is for happiness. Theater is there. It is great. But there is a world beyond the theater. I need to know more about this. We saw this world in the image of light. We know this world is timeless. But we need to know more. There is the family and what else in this world. But enough to know that there is this world, and we are at this stage very happy to discover the true self and the immortality of the true self. These are big things. It is like discovering a lottery. To start with, it is like a new donation of life. The true self has become conscious. This is also the word of truth. It is not a story anymore. This is the word of immortality, word of true family. We can call it meditation and yoga, but this is like a lottery, biggest lottery. For one who is paras, for him, this is a natural, normal. Meditation appears to be like something that is artificial. As we continue on our journey, we remember this extraordinary perspective. That's all. It is easy, and we need to see it as easy. Just we follow these steps, and first step, use the best intellect, and once you have got this experience, come back to this more often through the day. Also know that our old habits can block this very, very quickly. It appears like nice in the morning, and now you are back in the pot. That is possible. Our aim is to hold this perspective, make the paras strong. Thank you. Very happy to hear any comments, questions.
So there aren't any questions at this point. But in a normal theatre, you are really a spectator. But in this case, you're experiencing, so I'm just looking at the Spanish translation. It's like you're a witness, but then you're also very close to the action. So the feeling and reactions that come from the experience in the theatre feels real, as if, so you can even feel it in the physical body. It was kind of a comment, but if you wanted to say anything about it.
Any drama, the actor is also the spectator. When someone is acting, he is not, say someone is acting as a camel in a children's drama. On the second day, we gave the example. Mary is acting as a camel, and Isabel is acting as an elephant. And that Mary, all the time, is aware that she is the spectator. She is watching, she's acting as a role. At the same time, she is the observer. Same thing here. Just that it is possible Mary to be so confused, she thinks she's the camel. That is a problem. In the same way here, there is Prashant. Prashant is the role in a drama, and there is the invisible actor behind Prashant.
Yeah, thank you. It is nice to see how the actor is also observing as the dramas are going on. He never thinks he is the role. Why are not more people embracing this? And if why not? Because what is the fear that maybe prevents people?
No, we will be seeing that today, but in essence, the ego within us is a product of ignorance. Ego is based on the story. If you come out of ignorance, ego is going to die. And so no one wants to die in this world. Whether it is an insect or an ant, no one wants to die. They all want to get bigger. So also ego wants to get bigger. It doesn't want to die. So as long as there is ignorance, ego will give a fight. In the environment of darkness, ego is very active. And fear is from there. Yeah. But also you will see as ego gets smaller, and all these feelings also get smaller, and fear also gets smaller.
Yes, that helps, linking it to ego, and we'll understand more today on this. Even while remembering the observer status, there is still the feeling of pain, but maybe this is inevitable, to have this range of feelings. The idea is it to experience them, but not be shackled by those emotions. Because experiencing these emotions actually enable us to relate to others. If it's clear.
That is not the aim. We never feel that sorrow is doing anything good for anyone. We don't need sorrow to relate to others. Sorrow actually makes us helplessly selfish. It is a question of following the practice accurately. And as time progresses, we will get this refinement. And if we are in that space, it is zero sorrow. If the ego is mixed, if the detachment is not clear, if the perspective is not clear, then it will be mixed.
It's a useful point that there's ego, there's helpless selfishness, and not really truly thinking or can't think of others. And the comment, I realized this is not the aim, but I think it's going to be part of the journey for many, if not most. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily. So let's maybe continue. There aren't any other questions at this point.
Sure. So we will come to the more famous board. Now, today we'll be taking the subject of ego in some details and understand what this means. We saw, in our various discussions, our true home, our own truth. We don't see this as academic. We think it is such an amazing truth of the self. and the immortality and the true family. And we also saw when you are discovering this immortality, you experience that mind where you truly lack nothing, you miss nothing, you need nothing, you lose nothing. Fullness, in other words. And we also saw that we passed through this amazing theme park. We called it a drama. But we are passing through this. And what we are at the beginning, we remain the same. That is what we are. We remain the same at the end of the journey. You are not harmed even the slightest. You remain 100% the same. So all the fears of all kinds people experience, they are for nothing. Your journey continues. During this journey, all that we are questioning is our ignorance and the bondages we create from ignorance, the happiness we think as happiness in ignorance, and all of that. It is the ignorance that brings sorrow. Otherwise, truth is beautiful of everyone. We saw during this journey, we do cross this line, and we call this line the line of ignorance. And when we cross this line, what happens? We cannot see the obvious. We get caught into all kinds of bondages in this. We saw the whole list of different bondages we create when we are confused. Anyone who is confused, you need to, if you meet someone who is confused, and most of the time those who are confused, they don't know they are confused. They may be thinking to help you, but their behavior becomes more of a problem. Confusion is like this. They think they are meaning well, but leads to problem to others and problem to themselves. If something so blatant in a drama and a story and temporary world, one can't even see it as temporary. He doesn't even see it as a drama or theater. It is a big ignorance, not a minor confusion. And so in that state, we create more problems to ourselves. And one of those problems we call this ego. So let us understand this subject of ego. We are giving it a little extra attention, the subject of ego, because that one subject, ego, rules our life in a big way. At a national level, international level, personal level, lots going on at the present time. It is the ego dynamics, ego psychology. That is what is going on. Even when we come to spiritual knowledge, it is still ego is the king. There will be a time when we will have a society that is ego free, but at the moment it is the structure of ego. It is ruled by it. So we might as well know this subject. So if I'm to see our world, let us say below this line is our world. And in this world, there is a body and there are people around this, and there are castles and there are dollars. Lots of nice goodies. So there is a world here, and we are seeing that there is a traveler passing through this world. At some point, he crosses the line, he's into confusion. And in that confusion, one new kind of bondage takes form. And this bondage is what we can call identification. How do we understand this word identification? In simple language, if you really use the word I for something else, that is identification. You really believe something else to be you. The simple example is, if someone criticizes one political leader and you take the offense, and you identify with that person, that's why you take offense. Maybe a pop star, it can happen in some places. People identify with some pop star or some celebrity, and then they take it personally. A famous example of this I like to give is someone by name Mark Chapman. He liked John Lennon, and he used to create time, music, and so his life was with posters of John Lennon and music, and his glasses were like John Lennon. And then there was a time when he started to feel he is John Lennon. There was a confusion. Mark Chapman is still in the psychiatric prison, because in that confusion he ends up behaving irrationally. You might meet some people, actors. I have an experience of one who was acting a certain role, and in time he had to be taken to the doctors because in his words, that role started to take over me. There was confusion and identification. Just these are examples, but let us understand this phenomena of identification. Now, to demonstrate this phenomena, I'll take this example. There is a plant in this room, and I have been looking after this plant for the last 3 days. And then someone comes and praises that plant. I like to hear that. You might say there's nothing wrong with that. But today someone criticizes that plant. I take offense. I don't like anybody criticizing that plant. Last week, I did not even know about that plant. So all that happened is this week, I've been just associated with that plant. And maybe I was, looking after the plant. But now someone criticizes the plant. It becomes my personal offense. Why? Why do I take the offense? He said nothing about me. He just said that plant is ugly. Do you want to tell? Why do I take the offense?
Ego.
Yes. Any other reason?
Created an attachment.
Yes. And in other words, I have given a birth to an I based on the plant. And now you say anything about the plant, this I feels you are talking about me. That is I create. Do we do something like this? Do we identify? This is what the identification is. And understand this, phenomena where something I did not even know. A week earlier, I had never seen this plant. And today, there is an I. This word I is not something can be used so casually, but I'm using it for the plant. And take sorrow and happiness. If someone says plant is nice, I feel good about this. Can you give other examples? Do we identify with anything else?
With our ideas or with our children?
Yes.
The job that we do?
Yes.
And the education that we've had?
Yeah.
The body, the maybe the looks of the body or ability.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it's very good. So almost everything from this story world. You see the absurdity. There was a time Mary is acting in this camel and elephant drama for 5 minutes. That is all. In the same way, we come in this story. Story is different. You are different. You are just passing through this story almost like passing through a theme park. And now comes a time where you are using the word I, to things within the story. And it can be, as was said, ideas, it can be car, it can be house, it can be another person, it can be your hat and shoes, dog. It can be anything, from there. And depending upon others around you, they get bigger. If everybody is saying, "Oh, your dog is so amazing, look at it," if they all are identifying with the dog, you will also start creating an ego based on the dog. In another culture, it may be car, another culture, your rank, or how many papers you have published, or in some spiritual gatherings, how many virtues you have. It can be based on any of these things. Depending upon your environment, you can be drawn into feeding it further. But you give birth in this, once you have crossed the line into darkness, then you can find yourselves anywhere. And you are busy now feeding these identities. And more, just like someone says, "Wow, amazing, that plant is so good, so everyone loves the plant, they take photograph of the plant." I might say nothing wrong, but during those times, I feed this I more and it gets bigger and bigger. You're getting trapped in it more. It doesn't appear good news, because more you are trapped, you are taken away from the truth. There is happiness, but happiness is a deceptive happiness. Starting position is wrong, then you are going further in a wrong direction. So if I was to take a photograph of our mind, you will see a picture something like this. Where there are, this is like a photograph, you got a selfie rod and you take a photograph, you might be shocked to see that if it is taking photograph of the soul, You might see there are lots of I there. I based on the dog, I based on some children, I based on hat, I based on body, clothes. It can be country, it can be religion, it can be ideas, all agreed opinions. Identify. How do you know you identify? Only when you are identifying, you will take the offense. If any time you feel the offense, you feel hurt, it is because there is identification underneath. Like someone says, I don't like this town, it is ugly town, and it bothers you, you are identifying with it. His opinion may be wrong, right? That is separate thing. But if it is bothering you, that you have created a bondage. And this is much deeper bondage. If someone doesn't agree with some ideas, opinion, or the body, or someone makes comments on the body, or the role, your character, your manners, deeper inside you're identifying with something in the drama. Mary, if Mary is told camel has got an ugly nose, Mary doesn't mind. It is just a mask she's using for the drama. If Mary is told camel is not very pleasant, camel is having big ego, it is a joke, for her. Yes, camel is having big ego. The soul that is conscious is free from slightest offense. Once these identities are created, they are sensitive to take offense and they will give offense. But in the midst of all this, there are all these in your selfie photograph, you might see all of this, but within that, there is a true identity also. But that is in the image of a dot. Soul consciousness there, but it is cornered. There was a time we were like this. We all were like this one time. Long time ago. It was state of natural perfection, soul consciousness. If you are a soul, then there is no business to be in any other state than this. But as a line is crossed and the darkness comes and a new habit comes, then we give birth to these false identities and then feed them more and feed them more, and they bring their friends, and that department keeps growing. And as that grows, the soul consciousness becomes smaller and smaller. What is our effort, spiritual effort? Our effort is to reverse this process. Create seconds, minutes where you are nourishing soul consciousness. This is our spiritual effort. Every minute you are creating time here, you are a winner. Because during those minutes you are creating light and you are changing dynamics inside. Creating light means the greatness. This ego is going. In light, ego cannot stay. Just like, you create a certain atmosphere, then flies and all will come, another atmosphere, flies will go. Then there's something like that. Ego cannot survive in light, in clarity. Ego will flourish in darkness. You want to add anything? Anyone has got any ego?
Yes. There's a few questions actually. Maybe the first one I'll ask here. I would imagine there are some beneficial aspects of the I, ego, identity. How does one ensure that one gets rid of the negative aspects of it, but hangs on to the positive aspects such as dignity, self-regard, and self-respect?
And also the dignity, self-respect, all of that come from here. Our first starting position is truth. What is true, what is false? I might get dignity based on a big car, but is that me? Is that the right dignity? If I am playing the part of the camel and everyone is saying, camel has got amazing nose, so impressive nose. And if I take dignity from that, is that, our questioning is it a foundation based on truth? Dignity is there, but if the foundation is truth, then down the line, it will create problems. That's why we want dignity, we want self-respect, we want happiness, please let it be from the position of truth. If anything that is false, it becomes a reason for future problems. Why do people cross line? Because there is some false attainments. That's why they cross lines. But then they get deceived.
Self-respect, if the self is true, then true self-respect of the true self, it would be more stable. Another comment, phenomena of ego is part of the human condition or the vehicle of mind and body, but I suppose it's about the soul having mastery over the ego rather than the ego taking over and eclipsing the soul. But I think that does not mean the psychological functions of the ego, such as dignity, self-respect, are eliminated. I know now you've clarified more about true dignity, but if you have any comments on this, is it a human condition?
Keep it simple. In the whole thing, keep it simple. Just emphasis on truth, that is enough.
Yes, maybe useful to review the session because it is clearly separating the two. Can we bring positive change in another person or the society if we don't identify them with any way?
Of course, like when we are soul conscious, this state that we mentioned in the past, we said in that state, you are secure, absolutely secure. In that state, you don't take offense. No one is your enemy, that kind of thing. So you are operating from that space. And when you are there, secure, we said that there is peace, and when you are secure, there's happiness. But when you're secure, there's also enthusiasm. And when you're secure, you are also more loving. And when you're secure, there's more clarity. Now, all these are very powerful motivating factors. Now, enthusiasm is a powerful motivating factor. Clarity, and you get ideas, new ideas. But most important, I want to help someone else. If I'm myself confused, what kind of help am I giving to someone else? I myself in my ego, and ego has got its own. Ego is helplessly selfish. Ego is insecure. So he's going to free others from ego. Will he be able to do that? But when we are in this space, you will find there are motivating factors coming from the higher space. And these are more useful motivators.
Okay, very helpful.
One is we want to help, but other is, do I know where to help? And I'll give you one example. One time we were in Greece for some conference. It was a science connected conference. Just out, more if I remember, Olympia, in that part of Greece. And there were different gatherings, the scientists. And at one point, one lady fainted. She collapsed. So I was somewhere else. They called me. And when I reached there, there were some other scientists. They were trying to help her, and they were keeping her seated. She had fallen, and they are lifting her head and keep her seated, and she is, drifting. She want to fall. Now, what happens when someone faints, or if the blood pressure drops, they fall on the floor. The reason they faint is because blood pressure is low. And when they are flat on the ground, there's more chance blood coming to the brain naturally because of gravity. If someone, in this case, someone keeps her seated, and if she was in that seated position for 4 minutes, she could have died, because the blood doesn't come to the higher position by gravity. Now, these people were loving her, they were meaning well, but if you yourself don't know what the complete picture, if there is some ignorance of the subject, your help can actually become a problem to others. But if you are out of confusion yourselves, then you know where to intervene, and you bring results, and there are no regrets. When in confusion, whole world, I'm literally saying here, the whole world, our intervention, it is coming from confusion. We don't know even the soul. We don't know even whom we are helping, but everyone is running around helping. Also tells us how effective it will be, our intervention, if we were to question this and come into clarity.
Quite a few questions. Just one immediate one that comes up. If you see something that's wrong, do you correct it?
Yes, of course. But first, let us start to correct ourselves. Something wrong. Here, this whole emphasis is to show what is wrong. This image that you see here, this is wrong. In a big way. It is like a big illness within the system, and it is self-created problem. Let us put this right first. Then I will know also what is really wrong. Otherwise, in my confusion, I think many things to be wrong. I'm busy changing the world outside and ignoring ourselves. But nothing wrong, but let us have the greater emphasis in the self.
The follow-up question was, what if they don't listen to you? But if you're grounded in the self, you play your part, but you're free to step back.
Yeah, and first is when one is soul conscious, one is not a slave. When we are in this false identity, there is desperation. I want others to listen to me because there is a slave mentality there. I am myself needing something. I want others to change so that it will make my life pretty easy. It is that element, I'm saying in some cases. So that then it lowers the power. What you are doing it for. Whole thing is coming from confusion. So first, let us make ourselves get it the right way up. And when we are right way up, you see clearly, but there is also power.
So yeah, a few other questions if it's okay to ask now.
Maybe let me complete this subject a little bit more.
Yes, sure.
Here we said we want to change this inner dynamics. And inner dynamics is, creating seconds, minutes. So when you have been using paras, you are changing the dynamics. Paras helps the soul. Patthar, stone intellect, favors the ego. Because ego wants that atmosphere of confusion and ignorance. Then ego can flourish. You create an atmosphere of truth, then the soul flourishes. And these are such precious things. Here sometimes the question arises, what should I be doing? You will be clever to spot these precious areas. This is where the real gold is. Big change at in this level, at this level. This is the whole game. Out of all the 8 billion human beings, if anyone is succeeding in bringing about this change, he's the wisest. Like right now, we are understanding what needs to be done, and some are making effort in this. The large majority don't even know what is going on at this level. But in this, if someone succeeds in this, is very, very clever, cleverest person on the planet. So here we are saying, if you want to bring about this change, paras favors the soul. They're like a big secret here. Patthar favors the ego. Lots of people make spiritual efforts with patthar. And then you are caught in the spin of ego again and again in some kind. But use paras, make paras strong. And then that subtle dimension becomes natural and normal. That perspective of the soul becomes normal. What a secret. And once you are in that, this entire department, ego, at various times, that will appear absurd. Just as we are using these examples, no? Someone says, "Oh, this camel has got such a wonderful nose, so beautiful nose," and if you feel flattered by this, you feel this is absurd. What is going on here? How come I react like this? You will feel this, no? Same, if someone tells, "Prashant, your nose is so good," and if I feel flattered, I should feel the same. Or they might say, you are, what, some, car is wonderful or shoes are wonderful. It can be anything. Or something you spoke is so nice. And if you are at that level, then ego will will start getting bigger. But if you are using paras, you will feel how absurd to be bothered by this. One person says it was so nice, another person says it is horrible. And the one who is observer is amused by both. But for all this, the game has to start. We emphasize this 1 minute, half a minute. You start feeding the soul consciousness. Now, when ego is the king, when ego is ruling our life, we said ego is insecure. Why it is insecure? You want to answer? Why is ego insecure?
Someone's typed Peter, but I think that's not for this question. Possibly also because of Peter. Fear of losing. To translate Spanish. But fear of losing and question, why is it a lie? Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, general different kinds of fear. Value is external and temporary.
Yes, very good. Ego is insecure because it is based on a world that is temporary. It is definitely going to end, and it is unpredictable. The whole thing, it is like a cloud. It is going to disappear. And in this ignorance, he creates I, defines himself based on this, hot air balloon. So he's forever insecure. Subconscious insecurity is its life. And that insecurity motivates, decides his mentality. So this mentality presents as a beggar. He's forever a beggar. Please give me more. That will make him feel secure. Please praise me. Please be nice to me. In some form, beggar is forever. When he is insecure, that makes him feel he's a victim. Someone may criticize him, someone may break something, someone did break something yesterday. So all these reasons, I am a victim, poor me. So the mentality is of a beggar, mentality is of a victim, and the mentality is of a slave. He's dependent on so many things. People, position, possessions, external things in the story. He thinks someone else should be nice and then I will be happy. Then I will feel safe. And why are they not making me safe? Someone says one word, they're unhappy. Someone says another word, they're happy. That is a slave mentality. They are masters. Those masters are deciding their lives. Beggar, victim, slave. These are the lowest denominations in any society. And so here, a person chooses a life, the mentality that is the lowest in any society. This normally, how does he deal with it? He doesn't like this. He doesn't like to feel insecure. He doesn't like to be a beggar. He doesn't like to be a victim. But his idea of dealing with this is to feed this ego more. Make the ego bigger. So now what has happened? Ego has become 3 times bigger because now he has got a bigger head and he has got a bigger car and bigger praise. Everything is now a success at every level. And the ego has become bigger, and ego is bigger, beggar is also bigger, victim is also bigger, slave is also bigger. This is the reverse trap everyone is caught into. Sometimes in medical books, one expression used, failure of success. So you are working hard to succeed and you are succeeding also. But there's something going wrong at another level. There is a failure. Where is this failure coming from? Why are we having more mental health problems today than even 50 years ago, when we have got 60 times more, 8 times more prosperity? So much more mental health problems, 30 times more violence today than before. Why? Because we are in a reverse gear. We think we are progressing, but it is progress of the ego. Ego-based. We said at the beginning, if the starting position is confusion, and then you are planning the world progress and self-progress, you can be going in a reverse gear, and that's what is happening here. How do we fix it? The answer is simple answer. First, come out of confusion. And it has to start from me. It is not we cannot help anyone else more than I have helped myself. We can help others within the limits to how much I have helped myself. Excellent. So, want to add anything? Say anything?
Yes. A couple of questions came earlier, and they're probably being clarified now. But if we just, as a revision, and what comes up, if to say this is my body, then we'll try to keep it healthy. And if I say my child, we want to inculcate good values into the child. If I say this is my home, and then I want to keep it clean, is this the wrong way of thinking?
As we often say, truth, our guidance is not right, wrong. What is truth? Truth is the invisible traveler. He doesn't own a single atom at this level. He doesn't own anyone. That is the truth. And of course, I am associated with many things, and we use the image of a trustee. So right now, I'm a trustee of. I'm using this device here, and I'm using this camera. So I'm a trustee of this. Responsible. That's it. In my family, it is the whole world. All souls of the world are my family. Not just one. Inculcate values. No, first let me. If I'm in truth, I will be able to give values to others. So that position, when we take that very clear position, then we can change. When we mix things because of any reason, then that is the problem. Everyone means good, but when they mix it, then we cannot bring about any change. The difference between soul consciousness and all this ego is you compromise truth a little bit, then you are in this, you cross the line.
Does ego support the beggar and the victim mentality?
As we said, ego is embodiment of the beggar and the victim mentality. Yeah.
Is abundance and prosperity associated with the soul being conscious?
Not necessarily. In fact, no connection at all. Is it a statement coming from Trump? Trump might not agree with me.
But in terms of true prosperity, long term, but short term may not be seen. Is that what?
Then that we will be seeing those things later. But at this stage, drama is going on by its own script. Soul consciousness is another effort.
Yes.
Story is going on. Story is not at the immediate level, based upon your inner truth.
To transition from Pata intellect to Paras intellect, does one necessarily have to minimize or, if not, eliminate ego?
Paras is the intellect that helps us remove ego. And in full light, if something is if you see something as absurd, it disappears. You don't just keep it, a little bit of it, but we should bring ourselves to the level where it appears absurd. But to do that, we need to come in that space, even for a short time, see clearly the perspective from the soul.
How to practice being in a Paras state?
Some of our what we have been practicing for yesterday, today, that is Paras perspective, Paras based meditations. And definitely, I'm sure you will be revising them. That's all, very simple. Even what we practiced this morning, first few minutes, that is Paras.
Saying to practice Paras, you need to use Paras. So
Yes.
start with it. We're not improving Pata to become Paras. What would you say is the opposite of the beggar, the victim, and the slave mindset? Would it be narcissism, megalomania, and arrogance? In the chat, someone wrote opposite would be freedom, which was an interesting answer. Do you have any comments?
I know if you become free from the beggar mind, then there is noble. You feel you are seeing what you already got. You become free from the victim. You feel you are beyond harm. We become free from the slave. You become your own master. Narcissism is coming from ego. So ego is the one that has all that. Arrogance means ego.
I think the question was, what's the opposite at the ego level? But to me, true opposite is, as you say, perhaps the nobility rather than the beggar victim, and the master rather than the slave.
And your own master.
How is ego linked to the other vices? In this philosophy, there are 4 other vices.
Sure. Here we are using the word identity, and you will find this identity has connection with all the vices. For example, when, let us come to this image where here is identity. This identity is insecure and there is desperation. And when there is this desperation, it is not fulfilled, it will get anger. Certain kind of identities are attached to maybe human beings, whatever its identity is based on another person. So it takes the form of attachment. Just is a very broad word that is used. Another identity is attached to some object and it takes the form of greed. Another identity is based on lust in some form, and so again. So all these different vices, they are all, their origin is identifications. And if you want to remove any of these things, you have to remove the seed. As long as the seed is like, for example, if someone says, I want to be free from anger, you cannot just say, I'm going to be free from anger when this department is not even understood or not addressed. This department of identities. If the identities are removed, then there is nothing, as we were saying before, you don't take offense and you won't give offense.
One comment is that this appears to be like a vicious cycle, but from what you just said, to break the cycle, we start with reducing the false identification, and then that automatically reduces the other vices. Is this correct?
Yes.
In self-consciousness, there are no vices. The question is, what can we be greedy for?
What can we be?
Greedy for?
Greedy. And a soul-conscious person is not greedy. But these are ego-based. There are vices. In confusion, because there is inner insecurity, he thinks that greed will make him feel secure in some way. Another person feels someone else will make me secure. So that's why he takes the form of attachment. And he might sort of fool himself by thinking it is all love, but deeper inside, there's emptiness. And third person tries to fulfill his through eating more or some kind of greed of some addictions. Bottom line, they are all trying to address insecurity in them in a perverted way. That is the thing. They all are trying to address the problem, but from the position of confusion.
Yes, realizing now that it was less of a question, more what does the soul even need? There's no need for all of the vices because there's such fullness. So there's no need for everything else negative. It's maybe a good time to pause and have a chance to meet each other in rooms. Would you like to suggest any reflective question?
Yeah, one question is to ask if anyone got any ego. And if there is, what are you identifying with? And also try and see what is it that will be the answer to this. We are seeing that this is the seed problem of we cannot have a golden aged world, in a better society, as long as each individual at every level, at government, in companies, in everywhere, in families, it is a ego-based dynamics. You cannot get a perfect world. Here we literally take a position. We can change this, and we need to change this, and we have to change it from myself. And how do we change this? We bring in this anger. So discuss and amongst yourselves how what is going on, how this ego creating, if you are observing this in yourselves, not in others, in yourselves, and what are your different ways to address, solve this riddle.
It's a nice word, riddle. So while you're taking a moment to reflect on this, I'd like to take a pause and do a quick survey with Zoom. And I'm going to launch this now. And hopefully on your screen, you should see a question. Translators may need to translate. Are you joining Sanjeevani for the first time? First is yes, second is no. We'll leave it there for a few seconds. And if you're not able to answer on the survey, you can always type in chat, private message or public. A few more seconds. Okay. Thank you so much. We'll just share the results now. So quite a few are revising such deep topics. So very useful to revise as well. And maybe one more quick question for you, if I can locate it. Question, is this your first event within a space? And or Brahma Kumari's? And if it is your first event, if you want to share how you found out about the retreat, that would be really nice. You can just share in the chat if you wish. Okay. We're all very quick. So I'm going to share the results. And extra special welcome to those who are new. So thank you very much. And now we're going to hand over to the room coordinating team. And as always, just if you're in the wrong room for your language group, there's a help button. And we'll meet back in 10-15 minutes. So enjoy. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, we made it back. It's great to meet each other. Let's take a moment of silence to pause and come into that silent space. Not sure if something happened with technology. Okay, we're back. Hope you can hear well. It's saying the internet's not stable here in this ever-changing, unpredictable world and facilities. So I want to highlight one comment in the chat I thought was really nicely put from the Spanish group. It becomes clearer why we practice the consciousness of the soul in the clarity of this eternal world, reality, and the soul in that silence. So the soul in that consciousness enters this world of action without confusing the self with the role and mixing with the role and getting tangled with others. And so we can be in this world, but remain connected to that eternal reality behind. So it's fascinating to really understand who we are, but also what we are not. And also the eclipse and what is in the way, and this identification being the only thing that is blocking the true self. And I think just like to highlight, and you probably picked it up in the meditation, the word I is not actually used. So it becomes clearer, the separation, using an objective language such as invisible traveler. So we can fully go into that view or invisible actor. And it's like a clean, we start clean as if. And that's maybe an interesting method you might like to experiment with, because if we say I, then ego can creep in there, and it's sort of, in this case, Sarah is somehow mixed with it. So it can be very helpful to use language to be able to give ourselves the best possible chance of this unmixed and upliftment. Even if it's 10 seconds, it gives us contrast and space to feel the true sovereignty of the soul. So it would be nice if you want to share anything, feel free to do so. I think that there was some very nourishing, rich interactions and meeting. So I'm going to pass back now to Prashant, and we do have a couple of questions, but I think we answered many of them. So welcome back.
Thank you. We use this word these days, identity theft, and it is some serious crime. But here we are talking, and what we have seen so far is a big identity theft that has happened. Our true identity itself is compromised. And we all are thinking we are selfish in some way, but they are not even selfish. A confused person is working for, some people should praise the car or something like this. He works for this false I and wasting his time and life. It is like not just academic. This understanding of false I is not academic, but it affects our life at present. And the more we go in that direction, like as we said, there's a beggar underneath there is a victim. Victim doesn't stay as a victim. To prevent being a victim, he himself become one who can create more problems to others, to himself. Just like the many countries got big weapons, nuclear weapons. Why? Because that country may be a victim sometimes in the future. So they got weapons to destroy others. Everyone is thinking like this. So this victim mentality leads to another level of problems. Well, whether the beggar or victim or slave, there is desperations underneath. And it is nice, that comment that was read just now. Ego is this false I, and we use the word ego for that, as for convenience. And that blocks us from experiencing this, what is very naturally our best. Human beings all are extremely noble, all. Only thing that prevents us from experiencing this is this ego and confusion. So definitely let us create these minutes. This is another. It may appear to be a big thing we are taking on, but 1 minute, congratulate yourselves. Every minute you are getting it right, congratulate yourselves. And just now it was mentioned, practice in an objective way. We don't want to say, yes, soul, but it is another ego. Then you will not see the benefit. So during this minute, we are seeing that there is a story, and Prashant is part of that story. Just like there is camel, elephant, no difference. Prashant is just one character out of these billions of other characters. Temporary. Just for a few minutes, we are seeing that perspective. And if we are seeing it as a story, let us see it, not mixed. That whole thing is a story and nothing really matters. Things change and things might end. So during these minutes, there is nothing to complain about, nothing to worry about, and nothing to be obsessed about. And this paras helps us to see the world beyond the story. True self is not part of the story. In the story, there are camels and elephants. Beyond the story is the true self. Beyond the story That world is alaukic, unearthly. And that world is not gross like the cardboard things of the story. This world is subtle and eternal. So also the residents of this world. We call them invisible actors. They are the invisible travelers. They come in that story world as guests. We see this dimension as a world of light. We see it in the image of a sky. This environment, Paras environment, helps the soul, promotes the soul, helps the soul to become conscious. And the true self is able to see itself as an invisible presence, distinct from the story. And this true self, we call him the invisible player, invisible traveler. For him, it is normal to be like that presence, invisible. It is normal. He sees his complete independence from the story. Just as Mary sees her complete independence from camel and elephant story, even though she's acting in the story. So also this invisible player understands his complete independence. Story may finish next second, but the invisible player knows his world is forever. The invisible player, he finds it normal to belong to that sky. Normal to be immortal. Normal not to need anything from the story. Never a beggar and never a victim. Story cannot harm him even the slightest. The invisible player is never a beggar, never a victim, never a slave. He knows he wants nothing in the story, nor can he define himself based on things in the story. Not even one atom he can own there, but he feels full. He is immortal, and that's why he needs nothing nor is impressed with anything from the temporary world. Silently he knows he is lucky. He also knows everyone is lucky. They all are from the same home and the same family. They all are invisible players. All alaukic. The invisible player has woken up to this dimension beyond the story. As we continue on the journey, we remember this beautiful truth. We also remember the first step, a simple option. to use the best intellect. Thank you. As was said, sometimes even 1 minute to follow some of the things we have just now, say in the last 2 minutes, what was said. Nothing else. We don't need to make it simple, keep it simple. Just put it into practice. You're worth even listening to the recording. And if you get even 1 minute of this experience of a perspective, that's all. You are seeing the perspective from beyond. Congratulate yourselves, because it is a victory. Every minute you are creating time there, you are winning. Other things will follow, the ego and all will become smaller, but journey has started. Happy to attend to any comments, questions.
Yes, so the latest question is, when one is playing their part to the best of their ability, and if there is a sense of a satisfaction or achievement, something that could feed ego, how can it be avoided while still playing to win in this role in the drama?
Yeah, sure. We can only win if there is a replacement. So even before we go into this play, creating that time when the invisible player is conscious, you need to have a higher self-respect coming from beyond, and then you are not deceived by glitter and gold from the world of camel and elephant. If I have not seen the world beyond, then I am deceived by things that happen in the camel and elephant world.
It feels like it's a question of what is the definition of winning. I mean, you mentioned earlier the failure of success. So the winning, from what you just said, sounds like it's only winning if the soul is becoming conscious and free from ego. So it actually might look like an outer failure, but if it's been used internally to gain victory over ego, then it's an inner success.
Yeah, excellent.
Further comment in the chat. Is it wrong to feel satisfied by one's own performance in the drama, or should we be indifferent to it?
I wouldn't feel guilty about this. It is not a major sin. You might feel good, and it is not coming from the highest space. Next time something goes wrong in the drama, you will also feel dejected if you are at that level. That's why the emphasis. First, know the big prize beyond. Feel lucky because of the reality beyond. If you are having that starting position, then you will be more and more equanimous. Yeah. But don't see it as a big sin. There are other things to address also beforehand.
Thank you. I think it's helpful, this aspect that we need a replacement. So otherwise that is what's helping to shift the ground. Because earlier there was a comment, do we not all crave for belonging when we were looking at those small eyes? So like a group, a family, a club, or a nation. So would you like to say a little bit about what are we replacing that urge to belong? What are we replacing it with?
When we are conscious, we understand we belong to this big family and our supreme home. And that is the only place where I truly belong. We might think I belong somewhere here, and I can fool myself because then the government changes and policies change, and I may be asked, go out, go to Afghanistan or somewhere. And so this idea of belonging in this temporary drama is deception. I may think I belong to someone, but they might not accept me. The whole thing is a false assumption. We are trying to replace what we have achieved and experienced at a alokik level. We are trying to experience it at a gross, limited level when we use Patthar intellect.
This comes back to empowering Paris. Maybe a last question here that came earlier. What are the barriers to staying in Paris? And it may be answered by this session itself, the ego. But is there anything that you would like to add?
Intention, really. Do I want to? And no one can stop anyone. If you really want to, you will create time. You will give it priority and understand the value of it. Of course, there are all kinds of obstacles, but you will give it a priority.
This word came up earlier because some of the cross-questioning that came, it's like, is that ego? But if the intention is to learn, to understand, to take benefit, then it is from a good space. I think my own question is, if ego is ruling the mind, then intention is not genuine. So I guess it comes back to creating the environment to nourish this.
If ego takes a decision to make spiritual effort, I will not reject that. If ego wants to cooperate for whatever reason, then that is a good start. It may be wrong, the right decision coming from whatever source. That's fine. That is what we want. Even enemy takes a decision in your favor, I would welcome it.
Very interesting. So we start somewhere and work with what we have. So we've come to time, and I wondered if you would like to share anything final and also some idea for homework. I think observing, letting this next 24 hours be like a workshop, because the drama of life is a free workshop to observe the different identities. I always feel this is useful, but if you want to add anything.
I might say, create a program to come in the soul awareness, and let that be the reference point for all of us. Let us collectively support each other also in this. And when you are in that space, you will also observe if you are not in that space, what is happening. But a long-term homework for us for the next month, whenever any situation comes, any irritation comes, or any sorrow comes, even the slightest, know that it is because of the false identity. you take offense, or you feel something is not quite right in this camel and elephant drama, you feel bothered. Know that there is an identity there. And try to observe what is it that you are identifying here. We saw in our discussion generally identify with the house and identify with the hat. All these job, we give the general examples. But when you see them in yourselves, the identification, that will help you. It is another level of truth to observe that is in the direction you are moving in the direction of truth. Once you observe that, you know how strange it is that you are identifying one person and identifying with a dog. And once he sees that, he says, what is going on? How bizarre. Identify with shoes, how bizarre. I'm taking sorrow from that. When I identify with some religion, which he doesn't even practice. Once you have seen that, you will find how absurd it is. But once you have done that, it becomes weak. That identity becomes weak because light of truth has come. You have seen things, in a right way. So that is quite powerful sometimes, because the moment you have seen some of these identities in yourselves on the spot, that helps you to become free from those weaknesses. For example, next time you won't feel anger, or next time you won't feel offense, because you saw how absurd it is. So that is a long-term homework. Next 24 hours homework is coming in the way what we know is the truth, true identity.
Thank you, Prashant. The scene came to mind from Harry Potter, where he takes his magic wand and there's something in front that he would have seen as fearful, and the mantra is ridiculous. So in that space, we see it as ridiculous from the heart and the magic wand, and that whole situation gets dismantled because this power is lost. So I like that, the strength of detachment and coming from that view. Once we see how bizarre it is, we become free. So look forward to hearing your thoughts, realizations, and connect again tomorrow. We'll finish with some slides to review. Thank you all very much.